Would you choose to be a nun in medieval times, if this was the life you had to live? Because in the Middle Ages, life inside a convent was not gentle freedom. It was strict, controlled, and closely watched. This is how it usually worked. Once a woman entered a convent, her daily life followed fixed rules known as a rule of order. These rules controlled almost everything: when she woke up, when she spoke, when she ate, and when she slept. Days began very early, often before sunrise. Several hours were spent in prayer at set times throughout the day and night. Missing these times was considered a serious offense. Clothing was plain and identical. Personal belongings were limited. Privacy was rare. Most activities were done in groups and under supervision. Silence was enforced during large parts of the day. Speaking without permission or at the wrong time could lead to discipline. Contact with the outside world was limited, and in many convents, visits were rare and closely controlled. Work was required. Nuns worked long hours in kitchens, gardens, workshops, schools, hospitals, and scriptoria where books were copied by hand. Refusing work or doing it poorly could bring consequences. Now, this is what happened when rules were broken. If a nun disobeyed orders, skipped prayers, questioned authority, or showed resistance to convent life, punishment followed. The form depended on the convent and the time period, but record shows several common practices. She could be ordered to remain silent for extended periods. She could be separated from communal activities. She could be given heavier or less desirable work. She could be required to eat separately or receive reduced meals. Public confession of faults was common. A nun might be required to admit her actions in front of the community. In stricter convents, confinement was used. Some nuns were kept in isolated rooms for long periods if they were seen as disobedient or unwilling to follow the rule. If a nun openly rejected her vows or tried to leave after final commitment, the response could be severe. Leaving was difficult and often required approval from church authorities. In many cases, it was refused. It's important to be clear about this. Once vows were fully taken, convent life was usually permanent. There were nuns who accepted the discipline and adapted to it. There were also nuns who struggled deeply with the loss of choice and control. Convents were places of learning and order, but they were also institutions built on obedience. So when we talk about medieval nuns, we're not talking about one single experience. We're talking about a life shaped by strict rules, constant supervision, and limited freedom. And that brings us back to the question: if you were living in medieval times, with this structure, this discipline, and this reality, would you choose this life? Or would you hope for another path?